Good afternoon. I greet you this day with the greetings of respect and welcome you to this day of opportunities, possibilities, miracles, and choices. I tried this setting last week and I ended up running up and down stairs and changing a whole lot, and I really hope that today it doesn't do all that and we're able to have a good connection here. I wanted to see if we could have some ambiance behind us today and see how this works out. So I sure hope it works out okay. Thank you for joining in. Thank all of you who were patient last week as we tried, I think 3 times before we end up getting it right. So thank you for that and for having as many views as we did. So that's outstanding. I appreciate it very much. How has your week been? Have you been having some good conversation? Have you been practicing any strategies or techniques for relaxing and breathing? Has that worked out well for you over the last 7 days or so that we've had? We're into this section of lessons from the airport. Have you been using any of them? I think last week we dealt with checking your excess baggage, right? People, places, and things that may weigh you down. Did you talk with anybody about that particular piece? That could have been something right there. Well, today we're going to continue. And we're going to continue with a period of inhaling and exhaling, just relaxing and breathing. Let's take a moment and do that together. Relax and breathe. And the tip I want to give you today is actually a realization that I came to. May have been a little premature in giving you some of the other steps ahead to relax and breathe. There were some things that we need to cover first. And that's what our tip today is going to begin with in relaxing and breathing. One of the first things that you have to do is about 4 things that's necessary before you can even relax and breathe. Number 1, you have to have a desire to want to do it. Number 2, you have to have a reason why it's important. You have to have a plan for being able to relax and breathe. And that's what we've been talking about for the last 6 months. And you have to have some indicators to let you know when you are relaxing and breathing and when you're not. So let me go back to the first piece about having a desire to want to do it. I had a great conversation with a guy at a auto parts place at about 8 something in the morning over this last weekend. Great conversation. We talked about, he was sharing with me how there was a period in his life when he had no desire to relax. Someone had done something horrific to him, to his family member, and he wasn't interested in relaxing and breathing. What he was interested in is taking revenge. Relaxing was not on his mind. And it wasn't until he had a different reason to do something different that his desires start to change. So there's some people who have no desire to relax and breathe through a situation, through something that's going on. If the desire is not there, doesn't matter how many strategies you learn or read about or see for relaxing and breathing. If you don't really want to do that, if you are comfortable with your anxiety and your anxiousness, and if you're comfortable with that, then you're not going to do anything different. So there has to be a desire. Next, there has to be a reason that's solid. Because again, if you don't have a strong reason why it's important for you specifically to relax and breathe, you just won't do it because it won't make sense to you. You'll say to yourself, I don't see why I need to do this. So there's got to be a reason. I said there has to be a plan. That's all the different things we've talked about, what to do to relax and breathing methods. So we've dealt with that. But here's the piece we haven't dealt with. There has to be some indicators to know when you're there and when you're not there. So take this for example. Imagine that you're driving along the road or highway or street, and someone suggests that you're speeding. Maybe somebody sitting in the car or a police officer pulls up. They don't just say, hey, you're speeding. You say, no, I'm not. Well, you might do that. But typically, when someone charges you with speeding, one of the first things you do is look down at your speedometer and say, wait a minute, I'm only going 55. The speed limit is 60. Or whatever you might say. Or the police officer who pulls up, he says, listen, I have an indicator right here that shows plainly you were going faster than you're supposed to be going. Here's what the indicators are. That's the example to make this point. Did you know that there are indicators that lets you know whether you're actually relaxing and breathing like you say. So it's not just you guessing, but you can assess it. And I have it categorized in my head so I can remember it, kind of like BBB, like the Better Business Bureau. But it's about our body, our behavior, and about our breathing. First, your body indicator. If you say that you are relaxed, but your face is tight and your jaws is tight and you're all tensed up like this, your shoulders is up and your fists are clenched and your legs are tight, your stomach is upset, your body is an indicator that at least your face is not relaxed. But once you know that, what are you prepared to do about it? Do you have a desire to change that? And I always ask that question when you hear something that you might need to do to adjust. Are you willing to adjust if it means your attitude or your behavior? So one is about our body. Is it that way or is it relaxed? That's an indicator. The second thing has to do with your behavior. So I'm talking about your movement as well as your communication. So if your movement is rushed and hurried around, that tends to suggest that you're not relaxed. And some may argue, oh, I can be relaxed and rushing around, but typically people who are truly relaxed have a relaxed movement about themselves. That's the movement part. Next part is about the communication. Understanding that communication is two-part, speaking as well as listening. The indicator, if you're relaxed or not, is how are you listening to the person you're talking to? Are you listening with the intention of understanding? Are you listening so that you can reply to what it is they're saying? How are you communicating in terms of your listening? Then when it comes to your speaking, the indicator is how are you speaking? What language are you using? What tone are you using? What are you saying? How is that communication coming out? That's an indicator for you, not for somebody else, for you, for us to assess ourselves. You say we're relaxed. Does our body reflect that? Does our movement reflect that? Does our communication reflect that? You can say one thing, but what are you doing in terms of relaxing and breathing? The last thing is about your breathing. Typically, when people are anxious and frustrated, they're breathing short and it's not long and deep breaths. Typically, people who are relaxed have relaxed, slow, deep breaths. Those are your indicators. So, you know, we could spend more time on that, but the tip is to assess the indicators, your desire, your reason, your plan, and how do the indicators line up for you to assess yourself. Are you truly relaxed in the truest sense? Something to consider, right? Let's go into the content, the mindful moment content that's important. These pieces are already in place, so I know 5 weeks from now what that one is going to be. So I'm excited about this one. Last week, we talked about checking your excess baggage. This week, we're talking about going through security, that personal security check. You notice, and I'm sure you know why, that you can't go up to the security, the TSA, and tell them, listen, I drive this kind of car. I have this much money in the bank. I have this degree. I live in this kind of home. You know, I'm a good church member or whatever. That doesn't allow you to just go through security. They say no matter what you are, what you have, you got to go through security. Why is that? Well, it's because sometimes people intentionally are trying to sneak things in to the other side to their destination that they shouldn't. Also, it's because of this. Have you ever seen someone go through security? It may have even been you. They removed all their items, and when they go through, you hear the alarm going off, beep, 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 going off, and when they get to the other side, oh man, I forgot I had this on, or something they had on. See, there are some people who've been carrying things so long they forgot they had it. They forgot that it might be a problem, and it took somebody outside of themselves to recognize that and bring it to their attention. That's what the security does. Same thing is true in life. There are some things that we have practiced and carried so long that we're not even aware that we do it, and we need someone outside of ourselves to bring it to our attention. two psychologists back in the 1950s came up with something combining their names, and they call it the Johari window. Has 4 quadrants. One of those quadrants is called the blind spot that all of us have. That area that other people see in us that we can't see in ourselves. And you can't even see your own face unless you have something to reflect it back. You can't see the back of your head unless you have some kind of tool or something to help you see back there. We all have blind spots that other people can see in us that we can't see in ourselves, and they may bring it to our attention. Are you carrying something that you've carried so long? An anger about something, a resentment about something, a disappointment about something, some anger issues, some detachments that you have not managed or handled, some hurt that you have from a long time ago that somebody did to you when you were 12 or 5 or 10 or 2 weeks ago, something that you are carrying, you've carried it for a long time, some unresolved issues, and somebody who can see you points it out to you. Now, here is the interesting thing. They call that the blind spot. Here's the thing. Since organisms naturally move away from a negative stimulus, the same thing is true psychologically. When someone is confronted with something that's painful, they tend to move away from it or put up a wall of denial so they can't see themselves. It's not about the other person, but it's to keep them from seeing themselves as they are. And that denial is more than just saying something is not so. But sometimes they use anger as a form of denial to push you back so that you can't confront them anymore with what you notice in them. So they use anger. Sometimes they use rationalization. Sometimes they use intellectualization. Sometimes they use blaming, right? Where they blame someone or something else for why they did or why they do or why they react the way that they do. And you know what? As long as it's somebody else's fault, you never have to change. You can always blame somebody else for why you are doing what it is you're doing. Somebody is trying to point it out to you. So are you able to receive that, recognize it, and say, well, okay, you see something in me that maybe I hadn't paid attention to. And just like at security at the airport, sometimes they have to call a supervisor in to do a more thorough examination. Same thing is true in life. Sometimes we may need to talk to a professional. They can help us look deeper inside to see, are we carrying some old issues that's going to show up and cause us a problem when you try to have another relationship with somebody, personally or professionally? When you try to improve your health, are you carrying something that might interfere with that? When you try to improve your finances, are you carrying something that might interfere with that? When you're trying to go forward in life, period, are you carrying something that's causing you to stumble over your own feet and get in your own way? Check your personal belongings as you go through security and allow someone to help you find the clarity in that Johari window of your blind spot. Those things being said, I encourage you to look for an opportunity to be open to receive new information. Look for an opportunity to self-assess. This is not about anybody else proving something to someone else. This is about you looking in the mirror when nobody else is around and seeing, are you doing what you need to do? How are those indicators showing up with your intentions to relax and breathe, to assess what's going on in your life? Look for an opportunity to do that. And possibly after we have taken our own medicine, see if there's somebody in your circle who may need you to be honest with them, who's not afraid of you, right? There's someone in your circle that can share some honesty with you, someone that you can share some honesty with. But remember this, so you're not disappointed. Remember, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. Don't try to force feed some people. Some people, only when the student is ready will the teacher show up for them. Secondly, consider the possibility of you getting right at the door of that ideal relationship. Consider the possibility of you having the kind of health that you want or the job that you want, the opportunity that you want right there and you getting in your own way because of things you haven't addressed with yourself. Consider the possibility of being so close, but yet so far away. But at the same time, consider the possibility of being able to accomplish what it is that you want to accomplish, because you have looked in the mirror. You've allowed other people to come in to give you a 360 view of yourself, because you can't see it all. You can't even see your own face without something reflecting back. Oh, this is what I look like today. Lastly, experience miracles, miraculous things that will expand in your life as you become more conscious of your moments, as you become open to receive new information as you continue to grow. I encourage you today, not challenge you, but I encourage you. If your heart moves you in this way, pass the message on. Absorb it yourself first. Pass it on. Have that conversation with somebody so that you can enrich yourself and those in your inner circle. Pass it on, do that. Put it in your words. Use this video as a framework. Use it in your own way. However you want to say it, I encourage you to do that. Lastly, I want to remind you, December 22nd, there's a notice out there on Facebook. It's all in order. Benefit concert supporting the Alzheimer's Association. Love it if you can support it, if you can come out. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being a part of this. As always, travel well with respect.